I eventually wrote him a letter. I told him I was enjoying the way he spoke to me. I was sad his marriage isn't working, and I was starting to have feelings for him. I told him if he wasn't comfortable with that, then let me know and I won't come back. I will return to the practice he used to work at and he will never see me again. I apologised if this added to the stress he was clearly under and told him I genuinely cared for him. From the outside looking in now, as a proper grown-up who has healed countless inner demons, I can see that this wasn't a good idea. I can see with pointless hindsight that this guy was playing the long game and I was a pawn in a match that I had no training to be in. But back then, he had cast his line and I was hooked, and all he needed to do was reel it in, whisper a few more lies, and I was his. At this point, I was probably 23 years old and he was 36. He was 33, 34 when I met him, and being 13 years older than me and expressing so much more confidence than I could muster at this point, he worked his magic and called me. He told me to come in and see him, and that's exactly what I did. I remember arriving at the surgery. It was closed and he was waiting for me. I was all kinds of nervous, half expecting him to tell me I had completely misunderstood the past few years and how out of line I was. There was a part of me that hoped his wife was there to confront me, to remind me of what a wicked person I was and how I can leave now and never come back. I never understood this constant conflict inside myself. I never knew I could feel any differently and just let myself be led along this conveyor belt of bad feeling after bad feeling, searching for a glimmer of light to grab hold of and run with. The other half of myself hoped he was that light. He had treated me with a kind of kindness that I wasn't used to, and he had spent time getting to know me and my child. He had opened up about himself and his life and how awful it all was, and in those small moments that he took the time to touch my hand or intentionally push past me when there was more than enough room to walk past, he must have known he was pulling me towards him, right? Well, here I was, standing in front of him and waiting for the unknown. There in the eerily empty waiting room, we looked at each other. He spoke words and I could barely listen. He said things about having a family and that he had never done this before, about being poor once upon a time and working hard to get to where he was. All very odd things to be saying, because he then took my hand and led me to the other room. None of these things seemed to be on his mind as he pushed me up against the wall. My heart started racing faster than ever before, and I was sure he could hear it or even feel it. Was this me feeling something? Was this embracing life? I wasn't sure. And I still wasn't sure I even truly wanted to be there. But everything that had happened up to this day, and all the words he had said, and all the opportunities he'd put into place, meant this was me pleasing him, and people-pleasing is what I was born to do. I decided to let the thoughts of being elsewhere go. Let all the thoughts of his family and children I had seen and spoken to out of my mind, because this was my one job. Make people happy, and there, while he pulled at my jeans and tugged at my top, and while my body betrayed my thoughts and ached at his touch, he looked happy. He told me to go onto my knees and forcefully guided me at making sure he felt relief. He asked personal questions and then pushed at the answers until he felt he had taught me something new. Nothing was new. I'd pleased others, and not been mentally present then either. This was a job, and he needed innocence and naivety, and I showed up holding both out for him to take. And he did take. What was new was the completely sterile room we were in, the awful stench of disinfectant and bleach, piercing my brain with every breath in and contaminating the room with every heavy breath out. Looking back, I hated this, and I hated him for dragging my heavy soul there and tightening in that noose that was already carefully placed around my neck. Only now he also held a frayed end of it, to tug on whenever he needed company. The only benefit of the doubt I can give him is neither of us were aware of just how damaged I was, just how willing I was to sell my soul to the lowest bidder, and being a man of God, yet thrusting his way through the actions of the devil himself, he was a pretty low bidder. But I took it because he smiled. His life and marriage were a little easier because he took the time out to play and to teach me new things. My role was simple: turn up, let him act out his fantasies, and every now and then write him something. He told me I had talent, and instructed me to write about the wicked things we could do together. He would read it, get hot and bothered, and then take his frustrations out on my tiny body. I'm 5'2", and at the time a size 6. He was 6 foot something tall, and while slight in build, he was strong as fuck. It never appeared that he held his strength back while he stripped my clothes time and time again, while whispering delusions about how I was making his life better. I returned and returned because whether I felt shame or excitement, sadness when I saw his family, or appeasement when I saw him, I was feeling something, and this need in me had led me into hell too many times before, and this time was no different. I was void of feeling, So when the opportunity would show itself, I would do whatever it took to truly, deep down, feel something. It had been many years since I'd used any sort of recreational drug. That all stopped at the conception of my daughter, and through her I learnt what love was. But that was deep, deep, entrenched love just for her. It would be years before I learnt that to be able to love her with such depth, I would also be able to love myself. Truthfully, I owe her my life, as because of her, the choices I made were a different kind of wrong, a different kind of dangerous, and because of her, I kept waking up every single day and I kept fighting. Now, this man of God would invite me round to his house when his wife had taken the children out, or when she was travelling back to Africa. We spent hours lying naked together, talking about the days when he wouldn't be in such a terrible marriage. I couldn't comprehend the things he was going through. I had never spoken to his wife on any level to know her, so I took his word that she was all kinds of dreadful. Divorce was difficult for him, being so religious, and where they are from, and although I couldn't understand staying in an unhappy marriage just to keep the relatives happy, I could see he was in a tricky situation. But it was okay, because I made it easier for him. He told me so. I had to take some time out of writing this to remind myself about why I'm putting myself back there, and why I'm even sharing this. And the truth is, I learnt so much through this experience. I learnt so much raising my son, and then recently going back through and rereading the letters I received from this guy and his wife, and I learnt more than I thought I could all over again. Spoiler alert, my son decided to make some decisions for himself, and while I support my son wholeheartedly, I had a feeling this wouldn't go the way he hoped it would. I've taken some time to remind myself the point of sharing this, which is to shed light on there being 3 sides to every story. My truth, his truth, and the truth. Not all women who become the other woman even know what they're getting into, and I, for one, had no comprehension of the level of lies this man, who prays to God and goes to church and kisses his wife goodnight, would tell just to have sex outside of his marriage. I had no idea how much I would be hated and how much this would impact me long term until I began to see this from a distance, with non-judgmental eyes for all concerned, except the guy. I judge him and so does his God. The whole situation went on for years. It was encouraged by my family, and my mum would babysit my daughter while I went and spent time with this guy. I struggle to call him a man, as over the years of healing I've learnt what a real man is, and this one isn't it. I experienced his fetishes and how he liked to pull my hair, often unexpectedly and even midway during an actual vet's appointment. He would get annoyed if I turned up with my hair up and would physically take it down for me, no warning or chance to bring a brush for the tidy up. Geez, let a girl have some control over her autonomy. But no, leaving the room, I would be pulled backwards by my hair so he could get one last touch before I left. But don't touch back, no time, he had a job to do. It went on. He would dictate when we met, when my vet's appointments would be, what we got up to when we were together, what we spoke about. He told me what he wanted me to write him and when to write it, and even then, when he would read it. He decided everything. He told me when to leave and to never call him, he would call me. It was easier this way, as he didn't want to cause any unnecessary stress on an already fragile marriage. He was biding his time, and then he would be free, so I waited. And I followed orders, and I was a good girl, and I did exactly what he told me to do. Until everything changed.